Welcome back, everybody, to the Lethal Introspection crew with your usual gang, as well as a special host, Kevin.
Yeah, I guess a returning founding member.
That's right, yeah.
He gave up his equity a long time ago, but he can always come back. The door's always open.
And Jose.
Hello.
And Hannah.
Hello.
And today, for the podcast, we watched a somewhat new film that came out late last year called Robot Dreams, which is an animated film with zero dialogue, and it's, when I watched it, it made me cry a whole bunch, so I decided to make everybody else watch it today. So, Kevin, since you're back on the cast, let's start with you for your first impressions.
Yeah, I guess first of all, glad to be back. Glad to connect. I've been around the world twice since the last time we've done this, so that's it's awesome to just come back. I was telling him, it was like, I just completed my loop. Let's hang out. So, I was really like, I didn't know what to expect. It's like, okay, can we watch a movie without dialogue? And the first impression is just like, yeah, you can. I was engaged. I was surprised how much it didn't matter that they weren't talking, and it was good vibes. I haven't watched a movie like this. I think we watched it with another OG member. Prin Cups was here. He couldn't stay for this portion, but he was saying like, man, I haven't watched a movie with good vibes like this, and that's kind of how I felt. It felt like watching like a Nickelodeon movie where I'm like, it has like you're waiting for like, what's the lesson here? What's the Hey Arnold? That's what I like, the vibe, the animation. It was like, felt very Hey Arnold. And it felt like one of those, you watch one of those shows like that and they'll have like a side story for their pet, and then goes and does like a whole thing and then it'll come back to the main cast. But this was really interesting, and you said that you cried a bunch with it, and so I think I was gonna say this earlier when I say it when we're rolling, is that I think that because you said that, I was like, man, what's gonna make me cry? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're anticipating that, so it was like there was a few moments where it felt like a fake out. It felt like when you watch Fast and Furious, when, who do you call it? The one where they shot right after the dude had passed away, one of the main cast.
Oh, what was his name? Something Walker.
Paul Walker.
Paul Walker died. Yeah.
Yeah, and they kind of fake you out in a few scenes, like, oh no, they're gonna kill him off here. So it felt like that. I was like, oh no, is this gonna be that bad? They're gonna they're gonna completely kill this robot or something. So that wasn't. So you're expecting something crazy like that, but I guess I would, when it comes to it, I want to ask you what was the part, So I felt like I was expecting a really deep emotional thing, but it was more like, oh, okay, I see, this is there, but maybe I would have felt it more if I hadn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, but also you're watching with people, so it's like, I'm not gonna get too emotional.
Yeah, I was alone, so that I could cry like a big old baby by myself.
The commentary during it helps as well to kind of like, I
Yeah,
don't live in this movie, I'm in this room.
Yeah, it keeps it light. So I was, when we started it, I was just like, is this going to be like a movie we just like don't talk and just let it,
Sniffing sounds in the room.
But we started to, okay, we'll do some commentary, So that, depending on how you watch it, maybe it'll hit you differently. But all in all, I thought it was a solid movie, and I think my impression was I would definitely recommend it to people.
Yeah. Right on. Jose, coming fresh off the heels.
Yeah. This movie certainly showcases that there's a lot of jadedness inside of me in terms of like my media consumption, because as Kevin just said, I was also expecting for the other shoe to drop in a Hey Arnold-esque kind of way, where it's like, hey, listen, it's like there's whimsy, and there's there's childlike things, but there's still streets. you still live on the streets of Manhattan, all right? You can get cut out there, all right?
They had a little bit of it.
Yeah, and they do.
know?
Yeah, they did. Like the movie had its edge to it. They did a really good job of picking the setting because, like, if it was more like a pastoral, like they're living out in the countryside kind of situation, like it's not that there's not dangers out there, right? And there's probably even more dangers out there because there's not as much of a structure, but that doesn't. Like your brain doesn't automatically go to that, but it's like, oh, you see like a shifty neighborhood. Oh shit, like the dog's gonna get jumped, or it's like they're gonna cut more of the robot,
Is there like a rating for this thing? Is it like a PG?
It's currently not rated.
Oh, it's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I was wondering, would you watch it with a kid?
I think you could, right?
You could.
But I'm not sure if a kid would understand it. I don't know if you could
Not
show
as-
this to a
yeah.
kid and they would take away the same sort of messaging.
I mean,
that we
I don't know.
know.
The movie seems pretty well layered in its moral, the moral outputs that it wants to throw down. So it's like if you're a kid, you'll get something out of it. Like, oh yeah, friendship's nice. You know what I mean? Like
You might
the
understand
robot-
it at a deeper level.
Yeah, exactly. But there certainly are more layers that I, as an adult, can feel the movie starting to throw down in terms of being like the concept of letting go of an old relationship and not harboring resentment just because somebody left your life, and they're doing well. Like those kind of things would for sure 747 go over a kid's head, But yeah, like they're far more resonant. Even if you, as an adult, have never dealt with that kind of thing, I mean, if you've seen media, you've seen the tropes and archetypes that that they're trying to show you, and like what they're actually like trying to convey to you as the adult, potentially watching this with a little kid, right?
And they kept it pretty. They didn't make it R-rated. I mean, they had the worst thing probably that happened was that they flicked off the robot.
Little middle finger.
Yeah, the middle finger, and that was probably.
Yeah, they have like a
That's bad
Happy
as it
Tree
can
Friends animation to this movie that I was like, when's the gore gonna start happening? Did you ever watch Happy Tree Friends?
No.
No, it's like
It's
yeah,
like a
they were like
serious YouTube
little
throwback.
old like Nick Jr. looking things, but it was like gory. It was like it's like them like playing with each other's innards and like very messed up.
That's where I was like, is that gonna happen in this? Is it just gonna get dark suddenly? But no.
Yeah, it never happened. It was a lot of edging. For a kids
I
movie,
just
there was a
learned
lot of edging.
What edging means, and I was like, oh, saying that stuff. So that's funny because I just looked that up like this morning. I think. Like, what is this?
It's good that you had that context, so Jose didn't have to explain it to the audience.
Yeah.
Hannah, first impressions?
Yeah, I'm really happy with it. I think that my first impression is that it's really, really masterfully done for what it is. Like, as we were watching it, like, there was continuous commentary on, like, the animation is really, really good. It's something that you don't really lose through the whole movie. It's just like, wow, this animation is good, like, in moments through the entire thing. Yeah, and it does subtlety really, really well. As I'm excited to hear everybody's takes on it because I'm guessing everybody got a little bit of something different out of it. Because it does feel so layered in that way. So out of the gate, I'm impressed, especially with an animated movie.
Yeah, so I don't know if like it's appropriate to maybe frame up the general discussion initially in this way, but what really hit me about the movie was that even though it's like dog and robot and everybody's animals and stuff like that, how human the characters are and how much they relate to us as people. Like, and I guess even more specifically, like me. Like, I feel like I have been dog before, and I feel like I've been robot before. And because I've had those experiences, I feel like I was able to feel what the characters were feeling at any given point in time in the movie. What do you guys think about that? How did you feel about that?
In terms of like,
How do you see dog and robot, real quick, to preface it?
Great question.
Yeah, I mean, like, they just seem like an average person who's lonely. Like, that's what dog seems like to me, is just, he just wants to have relationship, you know? he looks across the street in the beginning of the film. He sees the couple, and it's kind of funny too. It's in New York. Like I feel like there's this other sort of message, like you can still be lonely even if you're surrounded by people, like everywhere that you see.
Yeah.
But anyway,
the setting certainly helps for that. Yeah, because
Right.
it's like, again, thinking about the contrast of like having this whole situation happen in a pastoral setting, right? It's like where you won't be able to see your neighbor for like half a mile in every direction.
yeah,
There's a lot more like the logistics of that make it so your brain's like, well, obviously I'm lonely. Like there's nobody that can literally be around. So it's like, but with the
You also
concept,
see people are doing better than you, and you can look over and you're like, damn.
yeah, that's exactly like
It could be that.
as opposed to being in an apartment, you know, where it's like there's somebody behind this wall, but it's like they're complete strangers. They might as well not even be there relative
Right.
to what they can provide to you in an interpersonal level, you know.
yeah.
What's Robot then?
Yeah, I think Robot is just like a blank slate that we're, as the viewers, sort of supposed to attribute to somebody in our past. Like a lost friendship, a lost love relationship. Like it almost doesn't matter who the other character was. Although maybe there's something to be said about the fact that it was a robot. But I don't know, on its surface level, it's just a story about how, like, we can be okay, we can move past, we can grow through losing relationships and be okay with it. Like, not,
Not wallow.
yeah, not wallow, that's a good way of putting it, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, the movie could have certainly gone in a darker direction where the dog becomes even more depressed about the concept of, oh man, like I can't even keep a robot companion that I like purchased to like, it's like and you could have gone into a black hole of a situation like that, especially because they do show you in the Halloween section, right, that he's getting angry about this, right? It's like there is like a shadow growing behind him in terms of like the feelings that are becoming repressed as time goes on, because by that point it's been like 2 months, right? Because the beach closes at the end of August, then happens Halloween, so it's been 2 months of him being by himself again, and he's trying to make connections with people, trying to scare little kids as they're like trying to go by, and it's not working. Yeah, I mean, like the movie, I guess if the movie wanted to be a little more realistic, it could have, depending on how you see it, it's like he could have just gone even more sad and angry,
Yeah, he like gets off on
Yeah,
yeah, he gets off on trying to not be alone. Like the whole film post leaving Robot on beach is it's showcasing the difficulty of trying to make new friends as an adult, trying to build connections when there's at base nothing there yet,
For me, I think it does matter who Robot is, because I think it portrays two different sides of the same kind of perspective that are handled differently. And what I noticed right out of the gate with the Robot's characters, it made me feel like, even during the happy parts, it makes me feel like this sense of loss, because he is this brand new to the world, he or she, I don't know, they are this like brand new to the world childlike character. They trust everyone, they smile at everything, everything's exciting and new. And that's what I noticed early on in the movie is, like, at first I noticed they were good at like appreciating these tiny little moments that happen every day and making them look exciting and magical and nice. And then I connected it with the Robot, because it's like, oh, this is the first time they're seeing all this stuff. This is a brand new place that's all good so far. And then I think there's something to be said for, like, they were purchased by this other character. They feel dependent on them. That's their whole world, which, like, I could semi-relate to in, like, history of losing relationships before, where this, like, one person is everything for you, and then you have to learn that you can have a life without them. What you have going on isn't everything. You can go start new and make new people.
Yeah, just because they took you out of the box doesn't mean that that's the end, they're the end all be all of them.
Do you feel like Robot was really suffering in, like, you can project on it because you know how you would feel, but it was like a lot of times you would look at Dog and clearly see like, dang, you know, he's on the couch, he's sad, he shows his aggression and stuff, but Robot would kind of had this blank, you know what I'm saying? It felt like it didn't ever get to him that he's like lost hope and he's, you know, like he's not becoming bitter about it, because like, damn, you got left on the beach
for a whole year.
for a year, and you're like, is this guy just, is he even trying? Like, you know, he doesn't know the scenario, because he doesn't know why the dog can't come back, you know? So that part I wonder.
I wonder if I wonder if the fact that happens to a robot owned by a dog means anything, because a dog would kind of do the same thing, right? If if it was flipped and say the robot was the protagonist, the initial protagonist, and they bought an organic dog, you know?
Organic dog. Farm fresh.
Farm fresh dog.
Grass fed.
Yeah, it's like the dog in its innocence, right, in its base animal innocence, right, wouldn't understand that the, kind of like the Futurama episode, you know, with Fry's dog, where it's like it keeps coming back to the same place over and over again, and it keeps checking and it keeps waiting for them to come back, and it won't move, even if it could, right, because it doesn't have that, like you referenced, like ill thoughts in any type of way. Like it isn't equating it isn't having like negative emotional arithmetic inside of its head. It's like this guy left me. Like I'm all alone now. It's like this guy's either can't find me or like it's impossible for him to get here. Like it's always from a positive connotation that he's thinking about it.
And I see longing.
Yes. And I mean, his robot dreams, the whole, you know, the eponymous aspect of the movie is about him always dreaming about him making his way back to him. It's like, you don't even have to come find me. Like, I know how to get back home. I just can't do it, you know? So, yeah, I mean, who knows what the artists were thinking when they were picking what the characters were going to be, you know? But, I mean, I would imagine there's a lot of parallels to be had between a robot and a dog in that way, where it's like they're almost programmed in a way to like think a certain way and be pure in that type of way, so long as they haven't been abused, right? And it's like the robot had the good fortune of, I guess, being a robot, because it didn't like, you know, because if like the shit that happened to that robot happened to a dog, it would eventually get traumatized. They would be like, you know, like, what the fuck, you know, like,
motherfucker took my leg.
Yeah, like took his leg, like sent him to a junkyard. You know what I mean? Like there was a whole bunch of things that because it was a machine.
Abused. It's like, yeah, he didn't get. No, he got abused, bro.
Yeah, he got majorly abused. Yeah, but because he's a robot, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't imprint in that way, right? Also, he doesn't feel pain, like physical pain. Like they chopped his leg off.
The only part where I could say you could see or like really be like, yeah, this is definitely the emotion he's going through, is like, why did he feel the need to have to hide away? Like, he didn't just go chasing after Dog at the end of the movie with this, you know, like a dog would, right? Like a dog wouldn't even think like, oh, he's moved on with that. It's like, that's my owner, you know? You would, at least you would expect.
Right, yeah.
That they just see you and they'll be happy. But he thought about it, it's like, dang, I have something else here, and I, you know, maybe he's moved on. This is gonna complicate things, and there's like there's a lot of machinations going on in his head.
Well, I mean, he plays a whole simulation inside of his head, right? It's like he has one last robot dream where he runs the calculations of what would be the most likely scenario. I would get across, I would catch him. He'd be happy to see me, but then there'd be some asymmetry there, because I would imagine that, again, in his pureness, be like, well, this robot doesn't deserve to also get left behind just because, you know, I found my character.
Yeah, he was projecting in that moment.
In his dream, he saw that the other robot was sad, that the fact that this situation was happening.
That emotion.
And the moment that happened, he automatically, the guy behind, the rascal, the raccoon appeared right behind him, and he tapped him. He's like, it's all, you know, like...
Right. But you're gonna come back
to me. You're over here already, so we're fine. Yeah, exactly. Everyone's already with themselves, with each other.
That's interesting.
I'm wondering if that showcases like in a growing humanhood synthesis between like the dog aspect, you know, like the pet aspect of him, and like the human aspect of being like, yeah, you're right. From an instinct level, he's like, that's my owner. I'm gonna go straight to him. But it's like But now that he's thinking in like a wider scope of being like, what's better for him in the long run? It's like, would it be better? I mean, like, would it be good for any of us for me to reinsert myself back into his life when he's obviously already got a companion? I have a companion. No one's, I feel good, you know? It's like, so at that point, he just galvanizes the good memories by playing the song and leaves it at that.
Yeah, that's, I don't know if you noticed, but at the end, he's got the 2 tape decks there, and one of them says Rascal's Favorites, and the other one says Robot's Favorites, and it's September that plays in Robot's Favorites because of Dog. You know, it really showcases the maturity that Robot has achieved to be able to do that calculus, as you said, and realize that it's okay, you know, it's okay to have lost this relationship.
And even if you want to think about it from like a cold, like mechanical thinking of like it's still doing like this is all simulacra of emotion, right? Like it was like even like Dog is its original owner, right? And in a utilitarian way, it's like what it wants generally is for Dog to be happy. Dog is happy right now. It's like even if it's happening without me, like the maximizing of happiness is still occurring. So it's like I would just then, you know, in that math, you know, only begin to subtract in that way, and I never want to do that in his life, you know.
Could they have just all been friends?
It's an interesting perspective.
Therein lies the romantic aspect of the situation, right? It's like how much of a friend can you be with an ex in that context, right? Where in like, because Dog wanted like more. It looked like, right?
It seemed like the hand holding was that what they were trying to say with that?
Well, that's really interesting. Like they don't ever heavy hand anywhere like this is a romantic relationship, right?
I'm gonna have to raise my hand on that one though, because the catalyst of the situation of him buying the robot was him looking at the disgusting interspecies relationship across the way, you know. And
we'll just bleep that.
What interspecies? What?
They're getting pretty crazy over there.
Anybody can make a choice. So I mean, it's like that level.
Furry community might.
Yeah, it's that type of love that sparks his desire. It isn't like, oh, 2 friends walking down the street and that's what I want. You know, that's what I want.
But
it's
but it's not necessarily romantic, right?
Right, because he didn't buy a sex bot. I mean, like, it obviously seems like you need to prime the robot to a certain level.
That's where I was like wondering, is this alright, what rating is this? Because it's like, did they want to speak to adults in a certain way, right? And be like, you know, this is a relationship, we're discussing a relationship dynamic, but
an adult relationship
we also want to make this palatable to kids, so we're not gonna like make it like
a sexualized thing.
Yeah, they didn't come and give the robot an explicit sex, right? It didn't come with like a wig or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so
there's a square body. Yeah.
I get the feeling that this movie was not made for kids. Do you guys get that feeling? Yeah,
it feels more like a light Adult Swim kind of movie where
it feels like they were trying to play both sides.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean there was quite a lot of fence sitting when it came to.
It feels like '90s cartoons. Like when you go back now and you're like, hold on, this was going on.
A lot of innuendos.
Yeah, there's innuendo. I felt like there was a lot of innuendo, but without being explicit about it, where a kid could watch it and be like, oh, robot, his friend. But we watch it like, dang, you know, like, this is his ex.
It would be a situation. Yeah, I can easily imagine a parent watching this with a kid, and then the kid's like, "That was a fun movie," and the mom or dad just like lightly shedding a tear. Like, yeah, it was.
It's like, I love robots.
I'd love to have a robot. Yeah.
That's definitely interesting.
I feel like it spends much more time speaking to adults. But I feel like because it's a cartoon and it's cute and it's fun, kids could watch it just fine. They just won't get the same experience that an adult gets.
Right, because a kid would never understand that the robot dreams aspect is literally death dreams. Like the robot's going through like the throes of like hypothermia or like slowly but surely like shutting itself down. You know, if in those like simulation dreams that it's going through.
Or just extreme isolation too.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the point of one of the thrusts of the movie is how impactful loneliness is. And it could be death row dreams, but yeah, it could also just be he's been alone for months inside of his own head. And all the experience he has up to this point has just been with dog. Like you said, that's his whole world. That's all he knows. So that it's no coincidence that that's what he dreams about.
You know what else, too, though, is they kind of foreshadowed the end with the relationship with the family of birds, too. That even though there was this one little bird that, like, imprinted on him and wanted to stay, it's a pattern of his that he never wants anybody to give up anything for him. He's like, you need to go live your life. You can't stay here with me.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how cynical, like, and I get, you're watching a movie with a group of friends in a room, you're going to shoot the shit and make jokes. But it is sort of ironic how cynical you were of Dog, even in a joking way, of like, this dude has not quite figured out what it takes to, like, be in a relationship, or like what a healthy relationship looks like.
He just wants the thing.
Right. He just doesn't want to be lonely, you know?
Yeah.
What do you think about his attempts going for, like, he kept on trying to, you know, even with that toboggan trip and...
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's comforting, you know, the fact that, I mean, he is in a genuine position where he could wallow, you know what I mean? Like, it literally, he's like in a pivot place in his life where he could genuinely choose to just stay home all the time and just sink deeper into the concept of just being alone, or just, and get good at that, you know, get good at being alone and angry. But instead, he puts himself out there and is completely okay with making a fool of himself. You know, even inside of his own imagination, you know, he's not a cool dog. You know what I mean? Like even when he like pretends like he makes up the snowman and everybody loves the snowman, you know, and it's like he's like the hanger-on friend to the cool snowman.
That was his one dream.
Yeah.
That was the only dream.
That was the only one. That was the only dream that Dog himself had. Yeah, and in it, he's still a fool, but he's still out there.
Yeah.
You know,
He's trying to.
and he still hope. Yeah, because even when he messes up the throwing of the bowling ball, I mean, like he's still hoping that it's gonna hit something and it's gonna knock something over and it's going to cause a chain reaction for him, but it doesn't, right? And in his dream, people laugh at him, but even then, he doesn't wake up and then decide, screw everybody, you know. Even in my dreams, I can't. Yeah.
Even in your dreams, he doesn't succeed. It's like, wow, that's crazy.
That's super depressed. Like, it just cemented, really, like him waking up from that dream. It's cementing his longing, or like, at least for us, the viewership, like visually cementing how much he is longing. That it's still hitting him in his dreams. That's one of the things that, like, I think really got to me when I watched this by myself was, like, I said at the beginning, like, I've been Dog and I've been Robot. There's so much bittersweet wrapped up in that ending. That
Yeah, definitely.
When
So
you,
much.
Right, when you realize, like, when you think about how, it's like what Robot Dream was, what his dreams were about, were the missed connections, the missed opportunities, the longing for something that could have been and can't be anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it was only a year, right? It's like, but by that point, he has a brand new body, you know, has a brand new job, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, because Rascal made him his, like, coworker, essentially, you know? They aren't just palling around as friends with each other, it's like they're actually actively out there doing things
He depends
together.
on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It isn't, it's a lot more, it's a far more symmetrical relationship there than it was with Dog.
It's like, so you're with an older guy now.
It's more established, you know? Yeah, he's got connections across town.
It's nice to see them like actually doing life together though, and like the good and bad and hard parts of life too. Like there's something that's, as an adult, you know, exciting to see that too. That like you're not just living in this like this life that I have no idea who's paying for at the beginning, where they go to the beach and they go to like all these different places. Yeah, but in the last one, like even like making up like a barbecue on top of the roof, like after work, like that just feels so much.
And throwing
Like the
down.
good
I mean,
parts of
like
life.
that plate. I mean, that table that they showed of all the food,
The feast.
skewers and like just delicious.
There's something really nice and really adult in that final scene too that I really liked as well. That it's like, I think like the first thing I jumped to was like, oh, he's thinking that this is less complicated and this is happy and this is fine. But there's also like this weird feeling of like when you've lost people in your life and you see them again or something, there's always this moment where it like all comes rushing back and it feels old again. It feels like it did. And like I've been in that moment before, and sometimes I'm just like, that part of the story is done.
Right.
You know? Like it ran its course and now
it's the acceptance of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting because both of them wanted to be together, right? Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh. I was like almost. actually, I don't know, but it came out like anyway. Yeah. But he obviously it was something that they both of them, I guess, Dog didn't understand. Robot shouldn't be swimming, and Robot, you know, they just didn't know it was gonna happen like that. And Dog tried as much as he was willing to go, as far as he was willing to go for it. So obviously it's just, and he went back to the beach to find him and all that stuff. So it's almost like, you know, because right now when we look at it from a relationship lens, you're gonna look at it more like, you know, a breakup, you know, and moving on and stuff. But this was a situation that feels, the only time in my life I can like correlate it is maybe when I was like in middle school or like much younger, where you meet somebody cool on a camping trip or like a, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you go to another state and you just have this summer fling and you'll never see each other, but you still want, but the circumstances you don't have control over to be with each other. And what if you run in, I've never had it happen, but you run into them later in life and it's just like, we're adults and it's too late. Like, like what did you expect was going to happen? But you've been pining maybe. It's like, oh, that was great. And
that's a really good comparison.
And then as an adult, I guess the only other way I can relate was another trip scenario is like, and it's funny because this happened to me recently, that I met like this girl when I was traveling in New York, ironically, because this was set in New York, and she's Japanese. And little known fact about me, I studied Japanese in college. So rizzed her up with the Japanese game. We had a thing. It was like, you know, I was like, oh, she's cool. I found out she was like a singer or whatever. It was cool. So we kept on pen paling, but she has to go back to Japan. I have to go back to work. I have to do all this stuff. So it's a distance, right? And
there's a whole beach between you.
There's and then COVID happened because actually my birthday just, yes, actually this is really good correlation because COVID happened, and it was funny because that happened in 2016. We kind of kept in touch, but it, you know, after a while we hadn't, you know, respond to the messages.
Yeah.
I'm always thinking about her though, like, you know, and so then it comes to the place where I can now start traveling. I have a remote job, whatever. And it's funny, 4 years ago exactly, because I'm a leap year baby, and me and Polycat were like, oh, let's plan a trip. It's going to be my golden birthday. The closest I can ever have is a leap day because I'm turning 28, 29th, whatever. So Asian tour, let's go to Asia. And I'm thinking like, oh man, if I go to Japan, will I be able to see her? And like, what would happen? It's been like 4 years, there's no way, right? So then I go, and then COVID happens because we go to Thailand first. And I was supposed to go to Japan eventually. Then COVID happens. And then, you know, the craziest thing is I'm like, dang, if I could have gotten to Japan, I might have reached out, might have seen, like, could we have even, you know, she's probably in a different thing. It's just like, could we link, you know? Just have a coffee and see how things are. And so as it turns out, now, like, okay, COVID is real, you have to go back home. I go to, on my way, I go to, like, I'm in the Nagoya airport. Like, this is just a pit stop. And I get a message from her. She's like, you probably don't remember me.
What?
And I'm like, what? No way. But alas, I'm in Japan, she's in Japan, and it's COVID and I can't stay. Yeah, so, and it's funny because this last year I got to see her, right? And because I finally finished my Asian tour. I just came from Malaysia. That was the last place I was, but I got to Japan and it was kind of like that thing. It's like, you know, after COVID, you get to see each other. Is it going to be the same? What's going to happen?
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. And I mean, it's not exactly the same just because, you know, I think she is still single. Yeah, she's definitely still single. But yeah, we got to meet and it was a little awkward at first, but we got to meet. We hung out the whole day, whatever. But this is going to make me look bad.
No.
She just didn't look the same.
Lethal introspection. Oh no. Did she have a boombox for a body?
She just...
She got one stick.
You have a boombox body and a gold leg.
like that. She didn't look the same. And I was like,
Oh
no, it's been too long.
It's been too long.
And I'm just
The
like...
portrait in my mind, in the palace of my mind is...
The way that I idealized you so it didn't go as Disney as, you know, like... Like, it's like, oh, we finally got together and it's just going to be hunky-dory, like, after that. And then it's just like, I don't know if I'm attracted to
Yeah.
But...
I mean, it's...
You had too much time to
That's
work
what
it up in your
6
head,
years
too.
does, though.
It's
I mean,
a lot, bro. I met her in 2016, yeah.
That's
That's...
It's a long time, yeah. That's a whole other person at that
You're
point.
a different person, too,
I'm a
at
different
that point.
person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know. I don't know what she's been going through. Whatever. It's like,
Right.
maybe she did have a boyfriend, and we didn't talk about it that much. You know.
It's 100% possible. I mean, yeah.
Was this running through your head while you were watching the film?
No, I just made the connection now because I was trying. Because I struggled to see it in a relationship aspect. Even though you pointed out they were alluding to that and they kind of set it up. So, but it felt like such a platonic type of relationship. That's why I asked, like, could have they just been friends at the end?
Yeah.
But the fact that they didn't, I feel like cements maybe the author's intent.
Companionship.
Yeah, I think
They were doing a relationship.
the androgynousness of both of the characters, right? And also wanting it to be a children's movie, you know, all of those angles together make it so although you can layer a relationship like moral in there, you know, like it doesn't have to be blatant in any type of way. To the degree that if you don't want it to be in there, it doesn't have to be in there. Like you can literally completely extract that reading from the movie and be like, that's not what happened. You know, it's like it's just this dog trying to learn, you know, trying to make a companion for themselves.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, the very very good anecdote to the situation.
Oh, man, I hope this
Holy
isn't the
shit.
video that blows up. That is like, that guy's an asshole. We should find her and
Fine.
Did you see what this guy's saying about it?
You know this Kevin guy, right? Yeah.
We're gonna find her YouTube handle and add her in the description.
Oh God! Like as you were telling the beginning of that story earlier, I was like, "Oh man, if she ever saw this, this would be really nice." And so, like that, and I was like, "No, I hope she doesn't."
She never sees it. Yeah.
oh man.
Like maybe this video is what brings you two both together.
Now it's a different kind of emotion that's keeping us apart. Oh man.
There is really something to that, I think, though, like right person, wrong time situation that, like, I think adults run into many times in their lives. Where you're like, oh, just because of who we are right now and where we're at in life, this doesn't make sense.
We just want different things at the moment. It's like even
That's
if
tough too.
even if in a long-term position you do see a really great future with that person. Be like, I am a present at hand kind of person right now. Like, I don't care about the long term future. Like, I am thinking about right now, you know. And if I start doing the motions necessary to do the long term settling down, I then forego the moment at hand person that I want to be.
The now stuff.
You know, yeah. So it's like you really do have to know which direction you want to, you know, lean on in that way.
Well, and you never know if like it's gonna be the right time then either. Like you still roll the dice. It's like you could wait around doing this long term thing, but maybe it's not the same later. Maybe it's not still something you even want.
Yeah, and you just take a leap of faith, as Spider-Man would say.
I've never seen the movie. No idea what you're talking about.
No
idea what you're
Lived up to the top of the list, actually.
I think so. Good, like that is actually a really good breakdown movie. I would love
Nice,
to.
okay.
But both of them, you gotta just.
Yeah.
And I can't
yeah.
wait for the next installment. Oh,
my
man,
gosh.
that's probably my most anticipated film right now.
Yeah.
Both times we've watched one, first time and the second one. Literally the second it ends, both times Matt's been like, "That's the best movie I've seen all year."
Yeah, I didn't think they were gonna. One. Anyways, this is a different.
That's a different film.
Look for the next episode.
We talked about it, or we touched on it briefly at the beginning, but I'm curious to get your guys' opinions on the technical side of the film. I know we sort of mentioned while we were watching it, especially Polycap, that he was like, wow, this is really good animation here and there. What did you guys think of the film technically?
When you say technically,
Like animation, like I guess mostly animation, sound design, things along that
Very
nature.
rich. Everything. All the colors were so striking. So much sharpness and all the outlining and stuff like that. Like
The detail.
the detail of the city too. Like whenever, like the very last shot when they were rising from like the apartment where they were having, you know, the grill, and like you could, like that was like really nice.
Have you guys ever taken a film appreciation or art appreciation class?
I have.
You have? It's funny because like when I was younger, when I think about those classes, like you get credits for that, so that I took it because I was like, this is gonna be easy. We're watching film.
And then it changed
But
your life a little bit, didn't it?
It does. It's deeper because this movie being probably the most interesting aspect before you talked about it, because you're like, let's go in blind, but it has no dialogue, right? It's like no dialogue. But now that I look at it from that lens, it's probably something that would be great as a film, like if you're gonna do film or whatever, to study on, or maybe that should be something that everybody has to do, because there's this kind of lost art, and you can tell with, I don't think it's lost per se, but some people do it better than others, and you can tell when you watch a piece of media and you're like, these guys were a little more amateurish with how they presented everything. They need a long wall of dialogue, and they need to spell everything out instead of saying it without saying it, right?
Yeah.
And the way that they shot the shot, what you're supposed to feel with this angle, and so when they do this kind of non-dialogue movie, they have to say it without saying it, and there was so much going on, and where you're saying like, oh, you said it was foreshadowed, and so they're trying to express in the same way as these characters are trying to express themselves without words. So I thought that was really fascinating, and you could rewatch it, and now that you've seen the end, and you like, how do you feel? Like now that you rewatch it again, are there certain things that it's like, oh, that's what they were saying with that scene?
I don't know if I got anything extra on the rewatch, but maybe that's just because I watched it like a week ago or something like that. And I was really paying attention to it too. This time I think I was just able to let my eyes wander a little bit more, take in a little bit more here and there. Maybe sort of thinking about my previous opinions in a secondarily again. Is this the right? Yeah, is this what I think they were trying to say kind of way? But I don't know if I got anything new out of it. Maybe just more appreciation broadly. Yeah.
There's really something to, I think, what you said with not doing dialogue you can do it really well, but you have to do it really well, I think. And there's this cool experience as a viewer, that it's like a heightened sensory thing. Is like I'm depending more on my eyes, and like my ears are checking out a little bit more. So I'm doing so much more like screen searching for things going on as during the movie, you know, like and they make that so, like, I think the word rich is really good for it. There's so much to take in, there's so much detail, just kind of like regular life. And there's this really challenging thing in animating too, that's like, you don't have to draw a really complicated drawing, you know, with a ton of different lines. The hard part about animating, and the part that matters, is ability to express emotion. And some people can do that with like 3 lines. And I saw it as something that was really, really heavy in this movie, is the robot is literally like 2 eyes, straight line mouth situation.
You can
Like
draw him.
Yeah.
I wonder if they thought about it. Was like, that was a tough part of the movie. Is like, I was thinking about that the whole time you're talking. It's like he had to signal with his eyes, and then also tell the bird to flash his wings with the mouth.
But there's like these lovely little things too, that like the eyes just get a little bit narrower in like this happy squint, or like there's like this welling of the pupils that I think we sometimes like compare in our brains to like welling of emotion in your eyes, because it might be like it's getting watery.
I wonder if they had to lab that. They had to look at it. It's like, what do you feel from this? Did it
I'm sure
translate? No.
I think they put a lot of work into this, especially with the planning too of how the story takes place. But it's one of the first things that I notice in animated things is like if the expressions strike a chord with me, like I found myself smiling with the robot character a lot, because for some reason, with the, like literally 2 eyes line, like his face looks truly happy, and you can like feel joy from it. And I thought the animation in that way was just super, super genius. And the things that they chose to pull out of everyday life, like there was a ton of like little, I felt like animal puns happening in the back all the time too, that was fun. But in the first scene where he's like microwaving the microwave dinner, and like a splatter of cheese like comes out and sticks to the microwave, like right away, like I get so enthralled by just those little things, or like cheese, maybe it's just cheese scenes, but the cheese
The
balls.
cheese, you did get very
Really
like
good. I do
Parts
really
of
like
the film.
cheese. They
My
appeal to
favorite
You
my
were very
brain.
disturbed when you were like, "Whoa, no, well, that's not how you do that." The cheese falls on the plate when he was holding the pizza. It's like,
That I mean, that was actually a great
No.
absurdist turn, because I was like upset about what happened to the pizza, and then he eats the whole plate, and I'm like,
It all ends up in the same place.
I'm worrying about little stuff, I guess. But they did lead in emotions really well. Like when people find him on the beach and he's happy to see people, all of us are like,
What are you gonna do to him?
people are not great. Like,
Yeah, we know. Yeah, the audience. Yeah.
so it stole my leg.
Yeah, this kind of situation. I mean, I don't really ever watch movies that don't have dialogue.
Do you think you could go back and watch like old timey stuff now?
Yeah, probably. I mean,
Charlie Chaplin.
One thing, yeah,
with the wall of text after.
what I've really have gathered from what everybody has said here personally is that it really showcases that language was genuinely like the last thing humans learned how to do, because it's like the necessity to understand facial expression, the necessity to be able to understand like a moment and like a scene happening around you, and what the literal space is trying to convey without anybody having to say anything is something that is obviously far more primal than the actual knowing of words and how to convey them, you know, in a vocal kind of way.
Yeah, this is a lot of my life when I travel.
Oh, I'm sure.
Just
Yeah.
pointing to stuff. It's like I don't want to pull out Google Translate. It's
Yeah.
like
And
we
a
can,
lot of face
we can handle this. It's like,
expressions.
Yeah, just we'll run on assumptions. It's like, you don't seem angry, I'm not angry, so it's like you're still doing quite well, you know.
it's amazing how far body language will just get you.
Right.
Right, yeah, 100%. Especially if you're operating in good faith, like, you know, like Robot is all the time. It's like, Dog is unfortunately a little bit more jaded because he's he's alive, so he has the he has the issue of potentially dying if something goes wrong. Yeah, exactly. So he's just naturally more wary, but because just goes to show the positives of immortality. It's like it doesn't matter. Like you never have to stop trusting people because they can't if they can't physically hurt you like that. I guess.
I think that's why I see the robot as like more of a childlike character, is because it's like, this probably doesn't even apply to a robot, but like when I see something that's that happy and positive and excited about little things, I'm like, cool, like midlife crisis.
Yeah.
Like you're so untouched by the world.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, back in the day, they used to call those people idiots. I mean, like in like a formal sense. Like Dostoevsky has a book about a person who is literally exactly like this kind of person.
Yeah.
Like this kind of personage. Like everything is positive. You know what I mean?
What do you call them? They have a term for.
The book is called The Idiot. That is the name of the book. And it's all because this guy he operates in good faith on everything. Like nobody can. People insult him. He's just whatever.
They like me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he
rose-colored glasses.
Yeah, so because of that, it makes other people be wary because they're like, you're not operating on the same kind of operating system that we're operating. Like when I tell you this, you should get angry. It's
I want to ask about that. What should we see the life through robot like operating like that? Is there? I guess obviously there's downsides, but should we do that more? Because it's really interesting for me. I'll go to different places of the world, and if I'm with PodCap or like other people, I went with my friend Patrick to Japan, and I think it was Japan specifically, where he would be so concerned about people staring at us, like they're staring at me. Like I said, when I come in the room and just being used to being in spaces where I'm like a black and like, what is this person doing here? I think positively. They're like, man, they probably never seen somebody this cool looking. Like, this is just
I think take it all in.
Yeah.
They probably want a photo. Okay, and people have come up asking for photos and stuff. It's kind of interesting. And a lot when that happens to other people, they'll be like, "Oh, this is messed up," or they're trying to parade me or something. Where I see it as like, "Oh, they're fascinated to see."
Yeah.
Yeah, they're enthralled by difference. Like they literally have never got the opportunity to hang with.
Is that me being an idiot, or is it?
Yeah, and I mean, from a photo perspective, you would. I mean, you would be, but it's not. But the thing is, like, how do you then take the connotation of being called an idiot? Because it's like, because if it means having a positive demeanor, then it can't be a negative. It can't be an insult inside of your head. You know what I mean?
For you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, if anything, like kind of how, like in tarot, like the Fool is the card that starts it all, right? Like you have to be a fool in order to be able to begin the journey of like learning and like everything like that. So it's like you have to be okay with that moniker for yourself to then be everything else and eventually get to the world, right?
I think people can always benefit from being more that way. Like, I think it's internally in your body by yourself. It's the healthiest way probably for you to live. You're going to have the best experience with life, and many people will have the best experience with you. I feel jealousy when I meet people that are more like that a little bit, because usually children. Like, I just feel jealousy when I interact with children a little bit.
Life hasn't ruined them yet.
But I literally think it's that. I think we'd all like to be more that way, and it feels the best when you're not worrying about like dying or who's going to take your stuff if you leave it and go to the bathroom or anything like that. But I think unfortunately, like in this world, people don't get to be that person for very long before things happen to you and you start being more cautious. And then at that point, you would be an idiot, in my perspective, to go back to the other perspective because it feels better and not take care of yourself. Because, like, look at Robot. He got taken advantage of all the time by anybody that came by, and he was completely at the mercy of whomever came by. So you develop, like, its intelligence and its strength and its skill as you develop, but it doesn't necessarily make you happier. It just makes you take better care of yourself.
You have more guile, and having more guile isn't necessarily a good thing.
I'm wanting to segue this to something a little more lethal and dark about this thing. with that, I have been feeling. I want to ask what you guys. It feels like Dog was kind of a loser in this. Like he didn't really get what he wanted, because like he sees a couple, right? He gets a robot. Like, I think we haven't, there's a certain level of like, damn, this guy's lonely. He got a toy, like almost a
simulacra of a relationship.
And he couldn't keep like, he meets a real person. Obviously gets bullied by those anteater twins. All right, that's not gonna work. But he meets the duck, and clearly the duck didn't even think to like send him a like, yo, I'm going to Barcelona. Let's meet up one last time. I'm in Barcelona. Oh yeah, by the way, good luck. I'm out of here. Right? And she probably didn't even go to Barcelona.
I'm not buying it. See, that's the jadedness.
Right? And he still has the hat and stuff. But at the end of it, he's back with a robot. He tried all these human connections with the kids. He tried with the anteaters and the duck, and he's back buying affection. In a sense, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's
manufactured affection.
It's such this weird situation in this movie, because like that occurred to me for a minute, and then I like quieted it by being like, no, but these robots are like, they seem to be like sentient,
they're generative,
feeling, like whole beings. So part of me was like, it's not less, or it doesn't seem to be worth less than another type of interaction, but there is still something to that. There's not a choice there. It's like getting a dog.
There's something to be said about shipping in affection like that, or shipping in the opportunity to foster a relationship like that, right? Because
is he giving up at the end?
Yeah, I mean, who's to say? I mean, like, are all these robots practice for like an organic relationship eventually? You know what I mean?
Or
it's
is
like
it easier?
Because because it's not as though he's not out there
yeah.
thinking like it would be nice to have a duck girlfriend. You know what I mean? It's not like those things are off the table. It's not like he's like a robosexual. You know what I mean? Where he's like he like actively only wants to have.
It might be though. Hold my hand.
Well, I mean, like it just seems that those things are coming out of necessity. Like slowly but surely, his desires are being mutated by what he can obtain in the moment, right?
Right.
And I mean, it's a really good dark ambiguity that the movie leaves you on, because to Hannah's point, is that you can't be happy. You can't consider Dog a loser for his relationship and then be happy for Robot for his like growth in like humanhood, right? Because then that other robot could 100% also go through the exact same like evolution of like concepts and like because they're obviously recording what's going on to them, like they process it, like they have dreams, right? So it's like they're actively synthesizing the reality for themselves, and like trying to and having prescience, and like trying like consider like potential futures and stuff like that. So like they're not just like beep boops of like moment to moment situation. So and sorry not to cut you off, but to add to it, right? It's like we don't know the level of like AI inside of these robots, right? It's like we don't know exactly like if they are just VIs, or if they are like a baby, like it starts pure and then slowly but surely, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I need to be more wary because last time my leg got chopped off, and
yeah, it seems to have genuine consciousness.
Yeah, especially because it eventually begins to foster negative emotions too. Like the penultimate robot dream is him getting to the door and having to hide because the guy found another robot that looks exactly like him. Yeah. And then that robot, that's like the one time that it isn't like a little teenage hood, you know what I mean, that gives like genuine like evil eyes, like this is evil intent.
Yeah.
And it's him doing it to
Projecting.
himself
Yeah.
at that point. Yeah, he's projecting that that's what would happen. So even at that point, like the shell of idiothood in that way is beginning to crack on the robot too, because he's seeing that it isn't always going to be a positive outcome to him knocking on the door.
Yeah.
To like as more time goes by, more outliers begin to appear inside of like the dreams that he has. They're not as clean every single time. Wherein if it was a non-generative robot that just like, you know, this is my owner, that's what I'm going, right? Like it would stay the same every time. It would re-scrub and be like, no, I can always get there. I can always come home. Kind of like, sorry, one more time. just so I don't lose my string of thought.
No, you're good.
That AI artificial intelligence movie with what was the name of it? Huh?
No. Ex Machina?
No, with Joel Osment, something, the little kid, the little boy.
Haley Joel Osment?
Huh?
Haley
Haley Joel Osment,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
where it looks like that Steven Spielberg
I
movie.
never saw it. I think it was called AI though.
Talk about a movie that made me cry when I was a little kid. Oh, yeah, but like that, you know, the intelligence inside of that child robot never grows up past being a child robot, right? So that robot is stuck. Like it never is like, I want my mommy. It's been 2,000 years, but I want my mommy, kind of thing, right? Like if 2,000 years went by in this movie, I'm sure that robot would realize that like the dog is gone and like, you know, like it would need to move on with itself.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah, just to add into that, like, I think you're right. I think that he's sentient and he's experiencing more things and his mindset is changing. Because there's also, in addition to what you said, it's subtle, but he doesn't bond with the raccoon right away.
Mm-hmm.
Rascal or whatever his name was, is like, you know, when he first comes out of the box, when he's brand new for dog, he like wakes up and he smiles at him. And it's the first thing, they bond instantly. But when he woke up on that, like, I want to call it an operating table, even though it's like a workbench
Like
or
a
something.
room closet, yeah.
Yeah, there's not like, he's more like they don't smile at each other until they've bonded a little bit and spent some time together, which I think goes to show like he's had 2 bad experiences in a row where someone comes and interacts with him to take something or to get something from him. Yeah, so it does seem like that's developing. So I don't think it's a completely like non-human relationship, but it is like this safe bet of like they're gonna love me. They don't even know anybody else. I'm gonna look great.
It's priming future questions too,
Yeah.
because there eventually will come a point where someone is gonna have a robot friend, and you're like, dude, what the fuck? like,
That robot in the car that was getting hit by the kid.
I was waiting for someone to bring that up. That was the
Forgot about
one
that.
part where I was just like, is this where the movie's gonna go? Are they going to eventually, is Robot gonna eventually feel jaded about this relationship? It's like, I am a slave. I'm getting beat up by this thing, and I don't really want to be here, but I'm stuck. Because it looked like, I was like, oh, we might be going down this, and this is going to be kind of fascinating.
some sort
as
of
well.
iRobot situation.
Like
Yeah.
I bought a robot to love me, and even that eventually fell out of love with me. Like,
Now that's like
Exactly.
her. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's her.
That's
Yep.
her.
That's. I was wondering if they were gonna go there with it.
I like get a vibe. This is weird because like Dog's character looks perfectly likable enough when you watch this movie, but like, and I don't know if this is just, I don't know. I compare it to like being in the dating pool and like meeting new people, and when you first meet them, you don't know anything about them. But if you spend a little time and you're like, you don't work, you don't have any friends, where's your family? You start to be like,
What's wrong with them?
why isn't anybody else purchasing this product?
Yeah. Yeah. No one's picking up what they're putting down.
Yeah.
It's like,
What's wrong with them?
yeah.
Yeah, because
I
he doesn't
guess
have any
that's what the
hobbies.
question-
You know, to go back to your question about loserhood, right?
Yeah.
For Dog, I would imagine that it actually showcases the fact that being a loser like that is an internal state of mind, you know, because it becomes almost a habituation. Because I think about that the snowman dream, right, the dog had. If that dream would have been Robot having that dream, and the exact same things happened to it, right, where it missed the shot, everything happened, right, Robot wouldn't feel embarrassed at the end of that, like that, you know, to the point that reality breaks in the dream, you know, like I could see Robot laughing alongside everybody because it's like, wasn't it silly, you know, that all happened, you know what I mean? Like Dog takes it, you know, and not that he's wrong, you know, but he takes people laughing at him in such a way that it is ostracizing to him. As opposed to Robot, who would be like, yeah, you're laughing at me, and I get it. You know, I am a funny joke, you know, and to the point that he would be able to re-ingratiate himself to the point that it's like, now we're all laughing together at the situation, not just at me as the... Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's how anybody could be, right? I mean, like, we've all known touchy people, right? Who, like, if they had just a modicum more of, self-levity, you know, things wouldn't be that big of a deal. They wouldn't blow up in such a way if their self-image wasn't so unbelievably in the forefront of their mind, you know, because they have a weird superiority/inferiority complex happening at the exact same time, where they're like, I already feel so small that any concept that is making fun of me, you know, makes me even more microscopic, which makes me want to blow up at the same time.
Could you explain that more? Why you said superiority/inferiority?
Because he you know, naturally the inferiority complex is evident, right? But the fact that he doesn't want to be laughed at is a superiority complex in the sense that he considers himself to be above being laughed at in that way. When in reality, I mean, you're well within the mud to get laughed at, especially if that kind of thing happens. You know, you're not humble enough to accept the fact that both circumstance and yourself have made you look like a dope. You're like, fuck the circumstance and fuck all y'all for laughing at me, you know what I mean, for having that happen.
That's interesting.
Which is where the superiority complex comes in, right? If it were just all inferiority, right, he'd cry, you know what I mean? But he wouldn't, but they showcase the fact that he can get angry, you know, which is probably what wakes him up from the dream.
That's true, like, for the kids rejecting him too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he's like, what the fuck, you know, like getting mad at them suddenly. That's interesting,
That's gotta be part of the problem too, because, like, I don't know, this is my personal relationship dynamic, but, like, in my experience, your real friends laugh at you. Right. Like, if we all went bowling and somebody, like, threw themselves with the bowling ball, like, I'm laughing at you, I'm laughing at you. Right. I don't know you as well yet, but probably.
Oh, you can laugh. I'll laugh. Okay. I'll probably be laughing already.
Yeah, and that's healthy relationship, and it's good for you. It's good for you not to take yourself so seriously. And it does, like, just like you said, we've all known touchy people. It does keep kind of this, like, barrier around you, because people can't react to you the same way that they can react to other people in their lives. Right. It's touchy, it's dangerous.
And it becomes a positive feedback loop for them, because they're like, why don't people want to get close to me, you know? And then, you know, and as a result of that, it makes that gravity, you know, that force field essentially around them just get larger and larger, because now you can't make a joke about this. I can't make a joke. You can't make a joke about this. You know what I mean? Like, all of those things make me feel too sensitive. You know, make me feel too self-conscious. You know, and because of that, it's like, if you're not, you know, poking ribs at your friends every once in a while, you know, it's like, it gets boring. And like, we can't just only talk about factual things all the time. You know, like, yeah. So, and especially because, again, that dog dream is really, really good, because that's like the only time that you really get to delve into his psyche, as opposed to just like him living in the world, you know? Because in that dream, he manufactures snowman, right? So he's another person who's like,
the kids do, but
down.
He puts the magic on him.
Right. He throws down the magic. Yeah.
He's a frosty when you put the carrot in.
Hey, I'm gonna frosty you real quick. Yep. But then they go to the bowling alley to another manufacturer friend, the penguin guy, right? And there's like, supposedly they're like in a bowling league together, because they all like have like shirts with each other, you know what I mean? So it's like, this isn't a stranger either, you know?
That's interesting.
Yeah, they seem like old friends, so I had a hard time with that.
Yeah, so it's unfortunate. Like, that is very, not personally familiar, but I can certainly see people who have been like that, you know what I mean? And it's it's very unfortunate, because as much as you want to sympathize with them, you know, eventually their temperament and like that kind of way of being becomes so repulsing, you know, that you're like, fuck them, like, I don't care if they're alone or not, you know, like, after a while, like.
I've been like, to what he said earlier, I've definitely been that character. I don't know about Robot, but I've definitely been that character like when I was much younger, just because, you know, when I when I came to the U.S., I didn't know English, so it was really like, and then growing up in New York, that's where I was like, this is New York accurate. This is not like I grew up in New Jersey actually, but basically I'm always in New York and stuff like that. People are fucking mean, and kids are fucking mean too because their parents are mean and they project on them. So like it was just like, and there's so many people in New York where you have, you know, all these different types of, you know, just ethnicities. So naturally people are a little racist. You stick to your group and there's gonna be, you know, there's just gonna be that kind of, that thing. So initially it was really hard for me to make friends because I didn't speak the language. And then once I learned the language, it was still like, people are just like, as soon as they hear my last name, they're like, oh, this guy's different and he's from what? That's a weird name. And you know how kids are, they ostracize you and stuff.
They'll tell you.
So then, you know, you start internalizing it. So I found it hard for the first couple of years of just like outside looking in on a lot of friend groups and being like, you know, in that situation where you're projecting like, if you're in an embarrassing situation, you internalize it a lot. Or you can't talk to somebody like you look at Dog making snowman and then following him, just like, you know, like what is he up to?
Immediately in that position.
And so now where I'm like completely like out of that mode where I'm like, if I'm still very, you know, you know, what's the personality type? Introvert. Yeah. I'm definitely a big introvert, so I don't go out of my way that much. But if I really want to, it's like I'll talk to somebody and it'll be fine. And it's like whatever, right? Why didn't he just go up to the snowman and be like, "Yo, you're alive with the," you know? That's just a normal thing. Just have an interaction. And you saw with him at the park too. You can see, it's, you know, a lot of the thing is, that's why I brought up. It's like, did Dog just give up? He doesn't want to fix himself. He doesn't want to realize that a lot of this situation is that, I think you're right with as much as he views himself as this pitiful thing, like he needs help, he can't fly his kite and he's embarrassed and he can't do something, so the way he makes that relationship is that she comes and helps him. Snowman, he embarrasses himself and then Snowman is still there like, it's okay, you suck at everything, but it's okay, right? So he wants somebody to be like, oh, it's okay, you can still be this like person who is, you know, like you said, can't take a joke, can't see himself and laugh with everybody and not take himself so seriously, to just go up and have a human interaction, and it would probably make things better for him, right? So like when I look at myself back then, I was like, I was sabotaging myself in a lot of ways because there was probably friend groups or, you know, things I could have inserted myself into, but because of previous, you know, it's like, oh, this is not going to go well. Yeah. You know, this is not, you know, and so you just end up shooting yourself in the foot. And so with Dog, I was definitely thinking that towards the end, he just ends up getting a robot. Not that there's anything wrong with the original robot. I don't want to piss off the robot community, but
when they find this in 200 years, like listen to this.
We have to preface this. Yeah. AI is getting there, so not that there's anything wrong with having your primary friends as AI, but that aspect of just needing something that's going to love you regardless and all that stuff, it feels like he kind of quit. And I really like what you said there, how you broke that down, because being in that before as a child and then seeing like, oh, I was being an idiot. Like I let that, I carried that trauma from with dumb kids to being, you know, a shy, I guess, preteen, and then finally being like, you know what, whatever, I'm just going to go for it. And then he was like, oh, it wasn't that serious, right?
Yeah. I think part of that is toughening too, is like, I think that can be a vicious cycle, because it's like you get rejected a few times and that hurts really bad, and then you don't want to put yourself in a position that you might get rejected again. Right. And I think that's why he like shows up and like tries to look approachable, and he goes to public places, but he doesn't go talk to strangers. Is like, if somebody approaches you, then it's easier.
Yeah,
Right.
he's very much, he gives off a once bitten, twice shy kind of situation in terms of his,
He lacks confidence as well.
And then it translates to that clinginess that we saw at the end, where he's like holding on to a duck, and then you brought it
you were
up.
mentioning that, yeah.
And you see him; he still has the hat on. He's going to the house, and you're just like, you know what I'm saying? So it's.
But
There's definitely something.
That's the positive feedback loop aspect of it, right? It's like you don't have anybody to practice being in a relationship with, so you don't know what the actual proper like modalities are of being like, how clingy am I supposed to be? Like, what is it? Like, what's the difference between being caring and like being like and like asserting your space? You know what I mean? And actually being and like trying to suffocate somebody, you know, because you're afraid that they're going to leave you, kind of situation.
And movies teach you the wrong thing. Like when you're like a preteen or like a teenager or a child, even like watching movies and you see romantic relationships, you're like, you gotta be all in. You gotta be really serious about it.
It did seem like Disney was pushing that hard in the 90s and 2000s, where it's just like, that's not. If you're going off of Disney Channel and stuff like that, it's like, no, that would creep people out.
Yeah, and in the real, like, I don't know, you kind of only get that from like actual relationship experience, and then you build your confidence and you become one of those cool people that's like, you're too clingy. Now you're the clingy one, not me.
Is that what they call like you have to like
actualization?
Not that far.
Sorry.
Cosmic apotheosis. Yeah. No. Just learning to love yourself, because you know that aspect of like I said, I am an introvert, but I'm like I embrace that. Like I don't like people that much also. You know, it's not like I need, like I don't see a friend who's like, I need to insert myself. It's like, I'm cool. I'm not going to have the anxiety of looking at a couple and be like, oh, I don't feel like that, right?
Right.
So I appreciate the way I am, but if it behooves me to want to talk to somebody or, you know, have a conversation, potentially make a friend at this bar, whatever the situation is, it can happen, and you know, and if it doesn't happen, I'm okay with it. You know, that kind of.
Yeah. At peace with.
I wonder how old they want a dog to appear in the movie.
Yeah.
You know, that's another. That would be another. That would be another aspect that would really add a crux to like their urgency to like wanting to do this kind of thing,
Clearly
right?
he's an adult.
Yeah, exactly. He's an adult enough, right? But it's like at a certain point, right? Especially if you're such an amateur when it comes to being in a relationship, either a friendly one or a relation or like a romantic one. It's like you eventually want to like speed run a situation, which is kind of like what the robot aspect is allowing him to do. It's like there are so many. You know, there's so much dead time hang that has to happen for somebody to really become your friend. You know, that as you grow older and you're, you know, not this guy because he doesn't have a job, but I mean, like, you know, as one grows older and like just life overtakes more of your schedule, like there really is no time extra for doing that, like buffer and galvanizing hangs of being like, we're not going to really talk much, we're just going to enjoy each other's company, you know, and this is just going to be one that we're literally never going to remember, but it's going to be squeezed in, and it will literally be like the compacting aspect that makes the brick wall of our friendship overall. You know, like for example, like Matt and I, right? Matt and I have known each other for about 13 years now, about 13, 14 years, right? Solid 6 of those first years, you know what I mean? We like hung out like every other day, you know, like either because it was convenient because of work, you know, we lived together, or we were just, you know, we were bored and young enough to like not have other things happen, right? So we hung out hundreds to thousands of times in a way that made it so at this point we don't really need to talk to each other that much, you know, like we have galvanized our friendship so much in the past that now the future is stainless steel to the point that it doesn't need to be, you know, so continuously like cultivated in the way that like you would a brand new, like I just met this person like 3 months ago. They seem really cool as a friend, but I gotta bring them to the party now. Like I gotta, you know, like we have
See
to
if they're cool
literally see, yeah, like I need to put them in this situation, and I need to put them in this situation just to see like how, like literally testing them all the time to see like if like they're like stress testing them to see like if they really will be able to hang in every corner that I'm like, you know, that I need them in essentially at that point, right? So it's like, yeah, when you're young, you have so much dead time to be able to get what at that point seems superfluous hangs, but ultimately do become very important, you know, because now I know that, you know, if we hang out for 3 hours, they're not going to be all anxious of being like, why don't they talk? Like, why aren't like you know, it's like, did I do something wrong? Or like, yeah, like
New friendships are exhausting.
yeah, exactly, right? It's like you know, I can literally come over and just be like, we're gonna watch a movie, and I'm just going to literally leave right afterward. You know what I mean? Like, and no one's gonna think, you know, negatively about that. You already know my schedule. You know what's going on in my life in that kind of way. You know, so
Yeah.
and
You have no
dog,
pattern of being mad at us.
yeah, exactly. So
like,
dog, yeah, and dog doesn't have that with anybody, right?
Yeah.
His mom doesn't call him. You know what I mean? Like none of his family calls him.
As far
Like,
as we could tell, he has no friends.
yeah,
or
he's got
family.
no friends or family. Like that is.
Damn, and in the city.
It's isolated.
And in the city, yeah, exactly. Like again, every study has shown that the more dense in terms of populace that you live in, the more you're going to feel alone, because you're going to feel like a loser, being like, how on earth are there tens of thousands of people around here and I can't lock down one friend? Like, what the hell? Like, you know?
That's what
Yeah.
gives me like, I don't know, I guess like mid-20s to like 30-ish, because I think when you're younger there's all these built-in systems, like you said, where you have idle time with other people your age, or like just other people in general, and then like you realize as you move into adulthood that like making friends is gonna become this big task and not something that happens naturally anymore. And I don't know, you almost wonder if like he is recently moved to the city and he moved out on his own or something and got his own apartment, and like now it's like, okay, how do you make friends? I don't know anybody here. I've done that once. I moved to this area from like way up north in the middle of nowhere and didn't know anybody, and coming in at first was exciting, and then realizing like, oh, I don't have like anybody here. I don't have friends. I don't know where to start with that. And I just like got a job, you know, and started there. And then I swapped out friend groups 3-4 times before I like landed on a more stable long-term friend group. Like it's really hard when you don't have backstories of people and other people to ask for recommendations.
And also not being in the 90s.
Yeah.
I feel like it must have been easier then.
Yeah, to have
Like-
like the like
It's,
social
I don't know,
media
though, right? Because it's hard to, like, they don't have cell phones like we do to be in like contact and like get hangs. But so in that aspect, it's like the organicness of a, you know, hangout has to, you know, you work together,
Grassroots.
or
Yeah.
you guys are at the same rest stop, and then you have the opportunity to ask them if they want to do something.
Yeah, it's 10:30. I'm not sleepy. Let's go hang out at your house for an hour and a half. Then I'll go home at midnight and just fall asleep right away.
Yeah.
To
You know,
leave
like-
us a voicemail on your I remember that, like, play the thing, you get home and they'll play the little cassette thing that has the recorded messages, and by that time it might have been 6 hours and they invited you to a movie. It's too late.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, not to go all technophobe, you know, on that aspect, but I mean, like, the instantaneousness of text and stuff like that adds to the concept of my personal opinion and, you know, complexes, you know, it's like, it adds to like the position of clinginess, because it's so instantaneous that you could be hitting people up that it's like you don't want to overload people, like you and yourself, right, inside of your own mind's escape. It's like I'm sure they're already getting tons of like other invitations to do other things, you know what I mean, because it's so easy for everybody else. Like I don't want to pile on, you know, in my thing too at the same time.
Right.
And then you know, again, the neuroses that fall inside of your own head, even though it's 100%, it could be 100% not true, right? It's like your imagination just takes you on flights of whimsy like that.
I asked Matt, you know, how he sees Dog's character,
Yeah.
and especially since he had, you know, connected with it. But does he have any critique on his character? And then, Jose, you asked.
And then I just asked, since Matt has said that he's an advocate for tough love, you know, when it comes to telling people their like faults, you know, like especially ones that are like sinking them, you know, based on the character profile we managed to be able to glean from Dog, would he be receptive to tough love, or is he too far gone in his superiority complex? Would he get too defensive, be like, nah, screw you, like, what are you saying all this?
It's their fault.
When I look at Dog, I see somebody who's naive, somebody who, like Hannah was saying, is maybe in his mid-20s, early 20s, still like sort of figuring out life as he's going. He doesn't strike me as like an angry introvert, I want to say. Like, it doesn't seem like he has...
Incel.
Yeah, there's no malice or like towards the outside world, or at least I don't get that from him. And I think when it comes to like the tough love thing, that is, you know, it's appropriate in certain times and places, and I don't know if Dog is of the personality type to benefit from it. But it really depends on who his friends are and what they're like. I don't know if I see like self-sabotage. I don't feel that from Dog. It feels like he's just doing his best with what he's got. He's certainly not very confident. He comes off as a little bit needy, but I think that just stems from loneliness. In summation, I don't know.
What context clues from? Because you said he's. Where do you get the naive and the? Like, what made you feel like that from the film?
I think the like friend searching post leaving Robot on beach. Like he sees the newspaper ad, make friends in the Catskills. It's like, hey, you know, I need friends. Like I'm just gonna do my best. Like it's a genuine search for companionship from him.
Yeah.
And it's not. I think that's the only place that it's coming from, is a longing for having a friend or a relationship of some kind.
That's
He's
true.
doing work.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a fumbler, but he's not, you know, just staying on the
He's putting
sideline.
himself out there.
Yeah.
I'll give him that. And but what do you see by the end of the film? He's got another robot.
Mm-hmm.
Is this getting him closer? Is this getting him further?
Yeah, it's weird because we shift perspectives to Robot at the end of the movie, and the ending is realized through his mature realization that it's better for both Dog and Robot if he doesn't go down and say hi to him. So I don't know. I feel like that's the direction that from my perspective, it's the direction that the filmmakers want us to look at the ending through. Not so much whether or not Dog has grown. And I don't know if Dog has grown at the end. He's definitely more careful. He's more thoughtful with New Robot. And he's making steps, like he's trying to fix the mistakes that he made with Robot through this new relationship. Or at least take measures to prevent the same things from happening.
Do you think he's moved on in the same way that Robot has? That like if he was in his apartment and he saw a robot walking down the street with a new companion?
I don't think so. I think that's why they use that sort of juxtaposition at the end, them dancing, and then when Dog realizes that it's September that he's hearing, and that was their song, that was what sort of encompassed their relationship, and he looks up towards the top of the building longingly, like sad. He looks extremely sad.
If anything, I think that this actually showcases the fact that the machine is growing emotionally intelligent quicker than the organic. You know, because the machine, right, in that scene where like they're both quasi dancing with each other, right? The moment that he looks up, the robot is smart enough to move away because he doesn't want him to pretty much go through that situation.
Yeah.
Because I would imagine at this point, Robot actually knows Dog better than he knows himself, in the sense that he would come looking, and he might make a big deal with Rascal, be like, that was my original robot, you know, like that, you know, like you took him from me from somewhere, you know what I mean? Like he would like you can see, like maybe Robot can foresee the fact that, you know, Dog isn't emotionally intelligent enough to deal with that at the moment. So because of that, he doesn't want to put him in that situation.
Exactly.
He's happy that he is, you know, that he's doing something with something or someone else, you know. Because at the end of the day, sure, one could still say that, like, the new robot isn't a genuine substitute for organic relationship, right? But at the very least, Dog is practicing, right? He's practicing being conscientious. He's practicing considering his partner before, you know, when they're doing things more further than just the fun at hand, right? It's like, what do we need when we go to the beach? We need sunscreen because I care about you further than just us having fun with each other. No, you can't. You know, he's also not as much of a wet noodle because at this point he tells the robot, no, you can't go into the ocean. You know what I mean? It's like let's go do something else kind of thing. Even though, because that robot is also just as innocent and out of the box as the first one, right? It's like, I want to go into the ocean, you know. And if he would have been just as like consenting as he was the first time, you know, trying to be such a people pleaser, right? He would have ended up in the exact same position. And this time he's like, no, we can't do that. Like, we have, you know, let's go find something else to have fun with, right? But this just can't be it. Like, he's so I mean, there's maybe the partner themselves who they're with isn't a step forward, but internally, I would say that Dog is learning the appropriate lessons necessary, that if another duck girlfriend situation came by, maybe he would be in a more self-confident position and, like, you know, a position where he seemed more attractive to her, you know, and stuff like that. Because in the first situation, he was just too, compared to how go-getter that the duck girlfriend was, you know, he was just too incompetent for her. You know what I mean? Like, he couldn't keep up with the kind of lifestyle that she was living and stuff like that, you know? And understandable. I mean, they were just at different wavelengths. Even though they liked each other, they just weren't, it wasn't the kind of thing that could go for a long time, you know? Like, I'm sure that within their context, he probably is a great talker or a great listener, you know what I mean? Like, we never get the chance to see that because there's no dialogue in the movie.
They don't talk.
Right? Yeah, but it's like, one could easily infer that perhaps Dog's greatest strength is that he's a great listener, right? Like, and that's why the movie for the most part is just silent, because he doesn't talk that much. We're just listening to other people. And it would also lock in pretty well with the fact that Robot being brand new to the world, you probably have an opinion about everything, right? It's like everything is exciting, everything, you know, it's like, you know, kind of thing. And then he'd just be absorbing it, you know, and vicariously having fun and, you know, absorbing the innocence, you know. Fun, educated inferences that the movie provides because of the lack of dialogue and such unnecessary cementing of backstories and things like that, right? It's like, by it being looser like that, it lets you twerk the screws in whatever way you need it to in order to be able to get whatever lesson you want dispensed out of the movie, really, you know? Because it can be a friend movie, like you said, it can be a relationship movie, it can just be a movie about understanding how to be in a relationship, you know? About not wallowing
in a different way. Like,
it's a Rorschach test, really, in terms of, like, what you need.
How you project
how you're projecting.
Because it's collage of dreams for most of it.
Yeah.
What lesson do you want dispensed out of it?
Me personally, the biggest joy that I felt in the movie was at the very end, because I am all about growing past the moment, right? So it's like, I really, really enjoyed the concept, especially from Robot's perspective, of being like, I cherish the memories, right? But the present is over here now, you know, and there's more to lose by trying to excavate the past than there is by letting the garden grow and me moving forward in this direction. You know, that I felt was very beautiful and very, as an adult, right? That's the lesson that I, in my early to mid 30s, want to extract out of the situation, because that's, in my opinion, the most important jewel out of the layers that the movie can possibly hold, right?
It's such a hard lesson to learn too.
And
it's
being
a hard learned lesson.
Being happy for others that made you happy but are no longer actively making you happy in that way too.
Does Dog think Robot is dead? Does he think like he got just destroyed on the beach? I was wondering about that because it was, as we were talking about, like it just occurred to me, like damn, if he thinks he's dead, it's a bit cruel. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he
if we're
doesn't
looking
know.
at the X thing, like you go and look for you just found it on your leg. You're like, no. And that's all. You're like, dang, you gotta move on. You're like, because he stops looking at that point.
That
Well,
makes
that's
it more.
this-
Sorry.
Oh yeah, that's the sad for me is at the end. You can tell Dog still has hope in him.
Mm-hmm.
I think that makes it more complicated too, and that could be another reason why he stayed away, is because if you're in a happy relationship or you're married or something like that, and you think your spouse or partner dies, and then
That's
after
wild.
a long time, you move on, you heal, you start a new relationship, the complexity of them showing back up in your life and being okay.
Walking Dead.
They come out of the ocean.
Exactly. It's
That was
so
wild.
The Shane. Yeah.
He's like, he's like his
I
friend,
already
but
got
he's
this
like,
girl. I already got your wife pregnant. No.
oh, you're gonna hate this, brother. Glad to see you, but not really.
But it's so much heavier than if you had broken up and if you had chosen it, because now you have two people that you love both of, that you wouldn't have organically found out yourself in that situation. So maybe it is better to just let him continue healing and growing a new relationship rather than presenting this whole complicated, painful
Right.
situation.
And that's why they needed to have the robot make the final calculation as to what's best, because
But real talk though, if your lover that you didn't exactly break it off with thinks you're dead, would you just let that ride? You know what I'm saying?
depends on how long it's been.
Yeah.
If they're in another relationship,
That's
Depends on how long
crazy.
it's been. Yeah, I mean, if it's been like a
Bro, and it was low-key their fault, kind of. They couldn't come save you. That's wild. That's heavy to be you.
But from a philosophical perspective, that means that you're the biggest person ever. You know what I mean? It's like the larger, the larger the offense that you're willing to forgive, that genuinely makes you the bigger and bigger person, right? It's like
That's crazy though, because you could equate it to I don't know, you guys went on a mountain thing, you're skiing and she got trapped and you couldn't find her and she gets adopted by some monks in the mountains. I don't know.
Right.
But just saying that, dang, because I wonder if Dog feels a lot of guilt and dang, I couldn't, I should have tried harder when he finds a leg. I didn't really internalize that as much because partly he's a robot and what kind of happened. But if they had not shown what ultimately happened and then revealed it later that he's still there, you think you would have maybe felt differently about Dog's perspective on what ultimately happened to Robot?
it's interesting that Dog doesn't come back and just check up on Robot. You know what I mean? It's just.
He can't.
That is...
Well, he got arrested for even just being in the park.
Right.
You can't see him from
You can't
outside
be in the park, but you can't even be in the boardwalk
Yeah.
aspect, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's true. That whole area is closed. Yeah, and he already caught a case.
He got printed.
Yeah.
He's in the
that's
system now.
I'm pretty sure you got a misdemeanor, guy.
Yeah. Can't do that.
One more thing like this. you
Yeah,
end up in the
exactly. You're off to
pound.
Rikers. Yeah, you're the pound.
So do we want to do ratings for Robot Dreams of Electric Dog?
Do we have any critiques of it?
Ooh, good question.
Likes, dislikes,
Robot Dreams
could have
of-
been's, betters.
Robot Dreams of Electric Doggies. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I feel like it was a missed opportunity. Why did they show the robot thing with the head, the guy? That was one part where I was like, oh, they opened up this box and then it felt like it didn't get explored further.
Which part?
Which part?
With where they see like robot looks over and sees another robot, you know,
Oh.
and the robot looks kind of dead and miserable,
Yeah.
and they don't explore that aspect. They kind of just
They seem
glance
like
at it.
they
but
seem like red herrings. Yeah,
A
like
little bit, yeah.
They
I
seem-
can't help
yeah.
but wonder if that's an input for his decision later. Is like now that he's had like a new place to live, like comparing, you know, and being like, would I be happy with that now? Maybe even. Like seeing the opportunity, like it's possible there are robots out there that aren't happy.
right. Yeah. Yeah, because that
Maybe it was
robot was
an
no
input.
longer smiling anymore, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Like
a little
the
frowny.
innocence of even being a robot eventually got worn away, you know. And I mean, we know that he's got eidetic memory and is processing everything that he sees, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I could see that being a red herring aspect of the movie, being like the movie's gonna, you know, just showing you multiple potential ways that the movie's could go. Because what really got me about the movie in terms of critique is like the concept that this schlubby dog, right, can afford a robot, right? But other people don't. Like that, there are like robots are more ubiquitous in like society. You know, like you'd think that like, because they show you like rich animals like walking around with like, you know, like and stuff like that. But there's like hardly any robots anywhere. You know, and there's like brick and mortar stores that sell you robots too. So it's like, yeah, it's interesting that there hasn't been like a Terminator revolution yet in this reality. You know.
just companion bots, and they don't do work like you might have expected them to. That's interesting.
In the store later, and it wasn't like brand new, it looked like altered robots or different types of robots or recycled, I don't know. But in the store, it was like vacuum bot and like tutor bot and stuff like that. And it made me wonder if they actually are like general help kind of robots.
Like
But the dog is in like such a lonely place that's like good for him. Like he just wants a companion. He doesn't want them to do any work.
Yeah, so like the firmware of every robot, every robot is like set to a certain type of like thing to do, and then this one's a companion robot. So its firmware would just naturally be one of like being friendly and like being like seeing the positive side and everything, right?
You can convince it to paint, so it's a little
Yeah, it's like it's not just a bending robot, so it won't just do that.
That's true.
But
I'm a bender, not a girder. Yeah.
in the background, there was one at the park when they first went to the park to go to the beach, and it was walking with a child. And my first thought was like,
It was walking a child.
It was
Like a nanny
walking
bot.
with a child.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
that's-
exactly. It's like it's
I'm
a
like
nanny.
picturing a child on a leash with a robot.
Same idea. Yeah, like it's
little too early,
responsible for the
In
child.
like the 2000s, they started
Yeah.
kid leashes.
Walk my child.
Yeah.
But for something like that, if you just needed a robot to watch your kid, you would want them to be like generally like a person, but that's like nice and competent.
I feel like with a movie that has a robot as a central character, protagonist maybe even, you sort of run the risk of dipping into other issues when it comes to like all these tropes that we already have in pop culture about, you know, like do androids dream of electric sheep sort of vibes, like where do we draw the line, when is consciousness, things like that. And so maybe that was a little bit of that red herring of looking down into the car and seeing the other robot. I think the real genius of the film is that it manages to stay away from that and keep the focus on just this relational dynamic.
Like her.
Exactly, like her, yeah.
Because in that movie, they become a super AI
Yeah.
at the end. Like they're like, we're all gonna go have sex with each other in the virtual in virtual
tired.
space, in hyperspace.
Yeah, so
Have you ever watched her with
No,
Joaquin
I haven't
Phoenix?
actually.
Oh, that's a really good one. Yeah.
Especially after watching this one,
Yeah.
it'll really resonate with you now. Yeah.
So yeah, I think I just I don't know. I want to applaud them for doing what I think is a really good job of avoiding sticking too many fingers in other pies and really keeping the focus on just the relational
The
dynamic.
interpersonal aspect of
Yeah.
it. Yeah, because it's an hour and 40 minutes,
Yeah.
right? It's like
You want to kick off your rating based off of that?
can naval
Yeah.
games.
even after this discussion, I actually opened a Letterboxd account, which is where you just put like ratings for movies. You can keep track of all your shit. And I gave it a 4 stars, and I think that's where I'm still sitting at. It's certainly not a perfect movie, but as far as what it was trying to achieve, I think it exceeded expectations. So I'd give it a solid 4, maybe 4.5. It did make me cry. That's something, you know.
Mm-hmm. I would like to know what this movie would have made me feel in a vacuum. Like had I seen it by myself and like let it stew by myself, kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see what.
It's a potential disadvantage for doing it for the cast, but
yeah.
I just liked it so much. I really wanted.
No, but I mean, like there certainly was a lot to excavate out of it. I mean, like
you know, next time for those kinds of things, maybe you can have like, all right, this one, let's let's like limit the commentary and let it, because I was trying to do that at first, like I said, when he came into it, so you know it could really just be like without anybody's kind of coloring to it.
Yeah.
And maybe we could juxtapose that in the beginning and just be like, all right, let's really just let it sink in. Especially with the movie without commentary, there's a certain like relationship a movie without any dialogue, I should say. Mm-hmm. There's a certain relationship you want to have with all the scenes and
really keep the focus in. What about you, Ben?
I've been going back and forth. I think this movie might be a 5 for me for what it is, because if I'm interpreting it, I don't know, you can't even say correctly because I think there's so much to it, but I think that it did what it's trying to do masterfully. Mm-hmm. I think that it did what it set out to do very well. And I like movies that are real enough to leave open questions. You know, I like that I kind of left this movie with a feeling like I left a relationship, you know? Because I'm like, oh, will they ever see each other again? Is there more there to be had, to be realized? Or is it something that you accept that's done in your life and you leave it forever? And like, will you be happy with that moving forward? Or will you think about it sometimes and it'll make you sad? Is like, I think it simulated that for me with very surprising accuracy of feelings.
Yeah, it sort of, it made me relive, like, past breakups, you know, past hardships when it comes to...
Even family things.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, anything that, like, losing a relationship. Mm-hmm. And, like, I haven't done a ton of it, just in feeling, not a lot of, like, digging into memories of just, like, I remember this feeling and I'm going to go visit it for a while I experience this. Yeah. So yeah, and it really is only working with a couple of tools. It's really only working with visual tools, and it even, like, you'd think it would lean really heavily into music, which it kind of did, but it kept its music so limited, and they used one song to make you feel all these different kinds of ways. And I just have such a deep appreciation for using very little and making so much with it. So I think I have to give it a 5.
Jose?
Yeah, I'm probably in the same vein of 5 because, like, dialogue is one of, like, the central pillars of movies in general, right? And this one doesn't even have that pillar, and it still manages to be able to hold the whole house down with absolutely no issue, you know? It's, like, literally almost like learning how to make a house in a different way kind of thing, you know? And, like and it is a more is less is more kind of situation, because if anybody is a student of the podcast, they will know that one of the biggest ways for me to lose a point is lore dumping in dialogue and having really long exposition aspects, you know,
ham-fisted backstories.
Yeah, ham-fisted backstories. Yeah, I mean, like Kevin said, you know, like sometimes like there are certain amateur and just lack of confidence in the creative section of it, where they have to spool out this text, either because they have to like give it to you as a preamble, or because somebody else has to say it, so you to be able to get all the context. Some things need it. Totally understandable. It's not a cardinal sin just because you do it, because some things are just that complex you know? But something like this, wherein the literal emotions that you're trying to convey are primitive. Like I was saying, it's like this is like a Paleolithic film almost, where it's like a caveman would have been able to make this kind of film. No dialogue, oog and boog, all the way through, you know what I mean? No need for the dialogue, just conveying all the facial expressions, you know, and just applying of a scene, and how the character is being affected by it, right? It's like, it's so unbelievably down to basic building blocks that it's crazy that it was, as Hannah said, still managed to be able to retain its masterfulness and not look like Roblox kind of like Roblox the movie kind of situation of it, you know? It's like, it kept the high artistic fidelity that they wanted to do, and managed to be able to make me think and not give me a definitive avenue of thought at the end of it. Because right now, as we have just spoken for like damn near 2 hours, you know, it's like there is a lot of different ways to view every character. You know, is dog a loser? Is robot even really feeling what they're feeling? You know, is like will artificial intelligence eventually, you know, outgrow us as companions themselves? You know, as they slowly but surely begin to like get generative information and memories themselves, and be like, oh, like I don't want to hang out with these clingy people, you know, like. Would two robots together being together in this reality be an even better, more stronger power couple that would take over the world kind of thing, you know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of open-ended questions that the movie lets me play with, and I love that. I love a toy box chest of a movie, you know? And yeah, that's the kind of thing that gives it a 5 out of 5 rating on my end.
Nice.
I would probably go a little lower just because I didn't really like the... I'll go the opposite way and be like, the ambiguousness of a lot of things in it didn't land with me, because then it makes it not as memorable. You know, like if something is kind of really clear in what it was trying to say even we were discussing, is this a platonic thing, or is it supposed to be, am I supposed to be feeling about, you know, a relationship? Am I supposed to be thinking about a relationship, or am I supposed to be thinking about how we talk a lot about making friends and just how making friends is difficult as an adult? But it's similar, but it's not exactly the same as finding a partner, right? Finding a romantic partner. So then when the treaties, like when you're trying to break it down, it's like, what did this film mean to me? I don't know. It's like, I could go each way. You could say this, or you could say that. And then because the author kind of left it ambiguous, and it fails to like be like, this film did this for me, because you're not sure exactly what the author was exactly trying to say with it. So it can be a double-edged sword in that, like it leaves it open to interpretation. We have like fruitful discussion as we had, but at the same time, for me, it's kind of like, then it didn't grab me as much to make me feel like if this was explicit and we were like, he was looking for a companion in a romantic sense, and then he had to go the way of this robot, then it colors it a lot different. If they maybe sexualized it, it made it like this is a romantic stand-in, then I'm going to feel a very certain way, and it's going to elicit certain emotions for me. Whereas if it's more platonic stuff, I just wasn't sure which way I was supposed to go about it, and that's where I'm like, I think it did what it was trying to do very well. You know, with no dialogue expressing, I think we had a lot to talk about without any words, except for maybe just that note. Because I was wondering, is there going to be a lot of like, hey, you know, like Google Translate, this and that. It was just that one note coming back, and obviously that was necessary for, it's a postcard coming from Duck, but I think it executed that really well. But as far as just connecting with me personally, I think it kind of missed, because it didn't really like focus in on like, this is specifically the thing I'm discussing here.
Yeah, like you were moving back and forth between different potentials.
Platonic relationship and a romantic relationship is kind of.
Oh, those are
It's
different
hard.
for you?
Yeah, it's really those are going to be completely different emotions. I'm not going to feel as strongly about it. It's like, oh, this is buddy, and you lose friends sometimes. But if it was like a romantic thing, then it's like, oh, I felt like that with the yeah. So, I think that's where I would be more like 3.5, 4.
I think there's such a taste thing to that because I think that. Because I find myself kind of in the middle of this. There's something beautiful about it to me that's like, it's so open that you can come and watch the movie and you can take what you need from the experience. Is like, this is what it means to me, kind of like you said earlier. But it is also ambiguous enough that can be annoying a little bit to not like feel confident that you're interpreting it in a way that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I could totally see.
Yeah, 100%. I have long forgotten the concept of authorial intent at this point. The author is dead and buried and incinerated somewhere.
This is my movie.
Yeah, this is my movie now.
It's kind of fun though when you have a story that has a surface level and it feels direct, but there's layers to it. Like we had another podcast way early. With the Inception, I think we talked about, and where we're like, this is going on, but can we trust Cobb? Like, somebody will watch that movie and think it's just about this, but is Cobb sane? Is he still in it? That cold thing that we could wrap around, which is what I do like that, where it's like, we know that the author told this story, but maybe he was telling this other story. With this one is like, he's telling stories and he's not committing to a certain perspective you should have about it. It's a taste thing, I think, for sure.
You know what's weird though for me with it, not to like overshare, but just to like draw this parallel, is like I kind of got to have a couple different experiences because they left that so open at the same time. Is like, of course, like I can relate to like previous romantic relationship type stuff and like some friendship things, but like nobody spends, there's not very many friendships in your life that are that close and that tight. But I have a brother that I don't speak to anymore, and it's been many years. And that, like, this was kind of beautiful, even like feelings with that again, because like there is some level of like, there's always going to be love there, and I want him to be happy, and it's okay that we're not together, and like spending our time together as adults. And I think literally, like, if there was one even like hint of like a sexual relationship in there, can't make that tie.
Right.
It's not there.
We're not talking about that. You know what I'm saying? I see what you mean, and that it might be one of those things that grows on you then, where you watch it the first time and it doesn't land, then the second time you watch it, maybe you look at this perspective, but it can do multiple things for you.
I think the medium that they chose also kind of limited them in that way, right? Because they picked a kids animation look to the movie, right? So automatically, no matter what, some kid out there is going to want to watch this movie,
Could have
right?
put some hips on a robot.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not like children are, and it's not like children are privy to human anatomy. I mean, but yeah. I mean, I guess if there is any authorial intent, it is almost ambiguity. They're like, I don't want this relationship to only mean one type of relationship in your life.
Yeah,
I want, like, because this is a robot, right? This is supposed to be, you're supposed to be able to project every single person in your life that has made you feel any type of this, either friend longing, familial longing, love longing. All anything that has to do with the concept of longing for somebody else that's no longer in your life. That's the general stream of emotion that I want. Now, what raft you're on as you're going down that river, it could be a relation, it could be a romantic one, it can be a friend one, it can be and like you said, that river runs at different paces depending on what, a friendly one, okay, everyone loses friends every once in a while, like that. The river doesn't run that fast. But if it's like a romantic one, it's like it's white water situation. It's like knife turns at every single thing, like from, So to give credit to the literally all of the European Union. I would imagine that that's probably what they wanted. It's like, okay, well, if we're going to make a movie for an entire continent, we have to make it so everybody can see something at the same time. It has to be unbelievably kaleidoscopic, which then, to your credit, then can dilute, for being...
Impact.
Yeah, exactly, right? The crater has, like, the rock is already so big that it's just breaking off as it goes into, like, the atmosphere, you know what I mean? And it's like, it'll hit you, but it won't be, as big as it was at the very top kind of thing.
Yeah.
As it goes into the atmosphere of your own life, and it just gets shed away. But it's like, I don't really care too much about friend groups, my family, kind of okay, depending on the person, you know what I mean? But relationships, like a love relationship, that's what really matters. Or the other way around. It's like, I can lose a partner, you know what I mean? Like, people come and go. My friends, that's that's decades, I spent with those people, same.
Yes.
And then family, like, literally my whole life, and it's like, yeah, I like the kaleidoscopic aspect of it, but 100% can understand how that automatically, dilutes it. The wider you make it, the harder it is for it to get deep. But
the more I think about that, the more it feels intentional too. It's like there's no clear gender with the robot. There's not even like they could have got away with kissing and had it be like a kids movie, but it's just hand holding and smiling at each other, which just gives like.
Was there any kissing in the movie?
No.
From any.
And if you're in Saudi Arabia, you're two grown men, you're holding hands all the way down the street. You know what I mean? It's like.
This is true.
Yeah. So I totally agree.
Yeah, in Kenya too, like men holding hands.
Men holding hands, yeah, exactly.
It's like, this is your buddy.
Yeah, that's my friend. I don't want to lose him. I'll lose him in the market again.
I don't like being in the market by myself.
Yeah, right. Again, it's a cultural thing, perhaps too, right? It's like would a set of friends, lethal introspection group, in Turkey, watch a movie like this, right, where it's like they're holding hands, and it's like it's all friends, you know what I mean? Like two, one robot, one male robot, one dog robot, you know what I mean? They just want some, no romantic aspect to it whatsoever,
Yeah, we did also kind of assume the gender of the dog.
Yeah, we're projecting.
I did say that. It's like, wait, are we sure this is a male dog? It's like he has a blue collar, or she? I don't know. We don't know.
Yeah, that's just dog. Yeah,
it's just dog.
It's made pronouns a little bit difficult for this podcast. I've jumped.
I know we have.
It's easier to say dog, robot, rascal. Yeah.
I literally have gone he or she or they like 3-4 times.
And we kind of like sexualize. In the gender aspect, certain animals. Like,
are you projecting on us? Did you sexualize certain animals?
The gender, we generally
really like the dog.
It's like we kind of. That's funny, but in the sense of like, everybody's like associates cats in our language with females and dogs with males, so we kind of went with it.
Yeah. Well, the cow in the beginning, when the other apartment had like lipstick on.
You know what's messed up?
Like leaned on the moose.
You know what's messed up? The dog only ever walks outside with a collar. And every other animal has full-on clothing.
Yeah.
I thought about
Stranger
that.
still, he takes off his swimming trunks on the beach and then puts on a collar.
Yeah.
Like that.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
I do remember. Was it swimming trunk? Because I remember he like took off his towel or something. And I was like, okay, this guy's naked. And I remember he put on his collar. And I was like, did he just dress up?
I didn't even make that connection. I thought he was literally changing on the beach, because I was used to seeing him in the swim trunks. And when he took them off, I was like, oh, I guess no one's here. That seems pretty comfortable for an amusement park.
I hate when that happens, even like during the film. And then you guys are saying like these things happened and I didn't pay attention. It makes me like, it's like this dreamlike like an aspect that's just part of life as well. When you don't appear, it's like, how will I ever know when I'm awake? Like if I don't.
What's going on in my real life right now? That I'm not
The
seeing?
dog took off his pants and put on his collar to go swimming.
No, after he was done.
After he was done, that's
It
crazy.
was swim trunks.
And
that
you
he took off.
and that didn't connect anything weird with that. You're just like, he's doing his thing.
I only did it because dogs without a collar on look naked to me. So when he took off the shorts too, I was like, "That's a naked dog." Like, literally, when we take off Wynn's collar, we're like naked.
Naked. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
Did you ever give your rating?
Amorphous.
Yeah. I'm hovering somewhere between 4 and 4.5.
Okay. All right, Brad. You were the first. That was
Yeah.
fine. Well, shoot.
Fives.
That was awesome.
Yeah, it's been great. Thanks, Kevin, for joining us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
We hope to see you back occasionally now and then on your trips around the planet. And
Stop by.
Founder and CEO popping in to check on operations.
Just like Twitter, no money, no profit. No profit yet, but we're getting a lot of interactions.
Man. No, I'm really happy that you guys kept this going and putting out more content, and I've been seeing all the for every time I'm on YouTube, it'll come up on my subscription page and I'm like, there's a new episode, so that's really cool. So I really appreciate it, you guys.
We only need one more time machine,
one more
hitter like the time machine, and it will be.
Do you guys do like a preview of like what could be next?
No.
What's on the horizon?
We did like
Fans.
community posts. Yeah, if
Do you want
anybody's
us to
watching
do
right now.
Spider-Man?
We're doing
All right,
Spider-Man.
if we got these many likes, we'll do Spider-Man. And if we do,
Jose has said from early on in the podcast that we're not going to do what the fans says.
Screw them.
As soon as we start getting interactions, I'm willing to go completely
Yeah, we're
180.
pivoting the other way.
then you should always ask and always do like, everybody wanted this, so we're actually doing this.
Yeah. Nice try.
Yeah.
Nice.
Like,
We literally did ask the audience one time, and one of our friends commented on the video to say which thing to do next, and
You're like,
felt cheap to do it because Jared wanted us to.
But
gotta
speaking
make
of,
it
shout out to our #1 fan, Jared, for keeping
Yeah,
on.
we love
keeping
you.
on,
Please keep
keeping it
watching.
up. And thanks everybody else for tuning in. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time.
have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.